Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
It's Desert Island Discs. Welcome to the program. Always inspirational, always insightful. And if for nothing else, we also love the music of those that grace the program. Today, special program, we have an incredible guest. We usually have ordinary folks sharing their extraordinary life stories. But tonight on the program, we have an extraordinary folk themselves sharing an equally extraordinary life story. She's everything you can imagine, from a poet to a novelist, an author. I don't know what there's a difference between all that I've just mentioned, but one thing is for sure, incredible books written by her. But that's just one facet of who she is. The other is, we have the pleasure of hosting royalty on the program, a princess. And without further ado, let me introduce to you Princess Mazzi Wampamba. Good evening, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
We are honored that you accepted our invitation to be on the program.
Thank you.
We don't meet princesses every day. We don't have royalty on the program every often.
Oh,
Welcome to the program once again. How are you keeping?
thank you.
How are you keeping?
I'm keeping pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's rather hot right now in Uganda, but it is fine. It's okay. The evenings are cool.
You love it
I
in
love it.
Uganda, whichever way it comes.
Yes, yes.
Princess Mazzi, of course, we got interested in your life story because of the so many things that you do.
Mhm.
From being an author, and right now you are working on a trilogy of beautiful, well, you call them fictional stories, but from my understanding, they're inspired by real life events.
Some of them, yes. Actually, that trilogy is inspired by real stories.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yes.
But also, most importantly, we also would love to know from the inside what it is to grow up as a princess. We never often get to know what the making of a princess is. But before we get there, we would just love to know you more.
Right.
Mazzi Wampamba. That's an interesting set of names. So one wonders whether you don't have a Christian name, or just tell us about yourself, starting from the name.
Right. I am the firstborn of my father and mother, Prince Daudi Wampamba. They gave me the name Mazzi because I think in the royal family, Mazzi was always a courageous princess. In Buganda and most of the Bantu languages, Mazzi means water. I'm goddess of the sea.
Wow. I love that. Goddess of the sea.
Goddess of the sea. Mhm.
And that was just the name thing.
That was the name thing.
But I'm sure with religion setting food and the tradition of christening children, you must have picked up a name or two.
Yeah, well, the christening. Oh, you mean the christening of
Of yourself, and because I don't really think that you were Christian and then given Mazzi as a name.
No.
You must have other names.
Yeah, yes, I do. Mazzi, as in the culture of Africa, most African cultures, is the name they give a child once you are born. The very minute you come out, they know what name to give you. And so the princesses and my uncles who are princes, they sit and they say, what name should we give this child? That is Mazzi. So you grow up with that name as your first name. Now, then you come to the world, and you come to, like in Africa, where you are colonized by the British, the French, the Portuguese. They brought religion. So now you have to go into this thing of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got the two names, Margaret-Anne. Now, the time when I was born, a lot of parents used to get these Christian names from some people, like some idols. Mine were gotten from Princess Margaret of England and Princess Anne of England. And why? Because that was also about the same time. Those people, they are a little bit older than me, but that was, the thing going on. I was supposed to be named Elizabeth, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I was supposed to be named Elizabeth, but someone said, no. They didn't like Elizabeth. So
They said Margaret, and so they need to get two personalities,
yes,
fuse them into one,
exactly,
pass on those two names.
exactly.
Quite very interesting. But of course, when we know, when you introduce yourself as a princess, the first guess would be also she is a king's daughter. But you just told us your dad was another prince.
Yes.
So just maybe let's connect the dots.
Yes.
In the relationship with the current monarch.
The current monarch, His Majesty, the King of Buganda, would be my cousin. as we talk today. But I want to tell you that the royal family, or the people that are called Balangila in Buganda, is a big family. And there are lots of kings, and it's the 47th, right?
Yes.
So all the people that come from all those 47 kings are royals by blood, and they are all entitled to the
title and all the
yes,
perks that come with
yes.
it.
So my father comes from a line of princes that are related to the grandfather of the present king. That is the direct.
That's,
and that,
that's His Royal Highness Daudichwa.
Daudichwa. But now the most closest to us, actually, as I was told by my aunties, is actually the King Mutesa I.
Wow.
That is our direct relationship. Now, King Mutesa I is the first king of Buganda who came out from our family on Hoima Road in Busiro and created, I think, a palace in Nabulagala. Nabulagala, you know where Nabulagala
Yes,
is. So because he thought it was too far, at that time, of course, there were the British and there were the British, all sorts of going on, and he thought it was too far when he was in a place called Kalit on Hoima Road.
Wow.
So if you go to Kalit, there are palaces, all the kings, most of the originality of the present kingdom is out of Kalit. So Mutesa broke out of there, came out here, and so Mutesa I, Daudichwa, and everybody who followed, Mutesa II, they are basically from the Nabulagala thing. But me, I would very proudly say I'm from Kaliti.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
I love that. So now let's just take us to the homestead of Prince Wampamba, where you were born, and how you were raised, the best of your recollection.
Right. So my father and a few other, I was born in a place called Kanyanya. It is mile 4 on Gaza Road. So many Baganda know Kanyanya as Kanyanya Mumiti Emilangavu.
Wow.
And that means, well, I don't know what that means, really, I'm sorry, but Kanyanya is the seat of the Namasole of Buganda. And that's where I was born, in Kanyanya. Not at the Namasole's place, but,
in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So home, raised up in, like we say, you are always born, you royals, with a silver spoon in your mouth. How was the feel of a silver spoon in your mouth as you were growing up? Pampered and spoiled by your parents, or taken through the actual raising of an African child as we know it?
You were required as a royal to be brought up as a normal child in Buganda and in Bunyoro and in Ankole. Whoever had kingdoms, they had to bring up their children as normal children because they were supposed to be future leaders. Now, if they didn't know whom they are leading, they would not be able to be successful. I think that was the reason. So we were told, that's why they created schools like Gayaza High School, Gayaza Primary High School, and so on, and both King's College, and so on. Those schools, way back, the kids were supposed to be taught how to do everything African, from digging, from making beds, from peeling potatoes, and matoke, and all that stuff. I mean, look at me. I left here when I was very young, but I know how to peel matoke, and I know how to speak Luganda. Doesn't that surprise you?
Incredibly.
Definitely. I've been out of Uganda for more than 50 years. Yeah. And, but anyhow, the princesses of Buganda, that was their job, to make sure that the kids that are within the royal family know how to behave as Baganda, and they know all the culture, they know how to do everything that a Muganda person does, so that they don't shame the family.
The family.
Yeah.
Sometimes as a child growing up, some of these virtues being imparted on you could come off like it's torture of sorts,
yes,
or quite a bit of character, like an affront on your freedoms and rights.
Right.
Did you feel like that growing
Yes,
up?
when you are young, you do. You become a rebel because you don't want to kneel down for everybody. They say, come and greet the people. They come and you have to kneel down and greet them, and you are like, why am I?
And the greeting usually takes
Yes, it becomes, yes. And so when we were young, we hated to greet people. I remember I hated to greet visitors because I didn't want to go out there and kneel down and greet so, and then you sit. You are supposed, there's a way you do it. And mind you, they teach you how to greet a person from Bunyoro, from Toro, from Ankole, and from Busoga.
Wow.
They had to teach you how to do all that. So if you were to ask me, how do you do that? I knew how to greet those people. They teach you how to do, even if you don't speak the language, there's some stuff that you have to do. How do you greet them? For example, I was once told to, a princess from Toro came to visit, and I was supposed to go and greet, and I thought I was going to greet and run away, you know. You don't do that. You're supposed to sit and wait. And wait until the princess, the princess is sort of like now into another thing. And when they are not looking, then you might walk away. Respect.
Wow. Yes. If they keep their eye on you and attention on you, you are there for the long haul.
Yeah.
You are talking about we. I clearly want to imagine that you had siblings, or you have siblings.
Yes. My sisters and brothers. We are a big family. We were 9.
Whoa.
Yes, 4 and 5. No, 4 and 4, because I don't count myself.
Ah, yes.
Right. So
4 girls, 4 boys.
Yes.
But in essence, there's 5 ladies, you being one of them, and then the 4 gentlemen.
The other, the boys. Yeah.
That's quite very interesting, and you had to, of course, serve as an example to these 8 siblings.
Yes, I had to be an example, and I was very rigorously brought up because I was the oldest. At that time, I went to boarding school when I was 5 years old.
Why? Why were they?
They took me to Gayaza at the age of 5. You know, at the age of 5, I know for sure, you know, that most of the kids you are still wetting your bed and all this stupid stuff that you do as a kid, and you're crying all the time because you want your mom. So I went through that, and then I got sick. I think when I was in primary 2, I started to get sick. I had tonsillitis.
Oh dear.
And it was so hard on me. So my father, being a young man, my parents were very young. Said, no, my child cannot be there. So he took me out and wanted me to be in a day school so he can look after me, I suppose. So they took me out of Gaza. They took me to Mengo Girls. Mengo Girls and Mengo Boys were schools that were equivalent to Gaza and Budo.
Except that they were right in the city center and they were desk schools.
Yes.
All right, on this program, Princess Mazzi, we play our music. We'll be interested to know the choice of the music of a princess. What will be your first song?
My first one, okay. When talking about music, I'm going to take you from when I wasn't in Uganda.
Okay.
Because that's what I know. The first one I would think of is the Sum of 69. Why is the Sum of 69? If you listen to that song, you'll just get it. We're rebels. We're becoming teens, or we're teens, and some of us were very, very riotous. Would run away from home and go to not nightclubs. They were sort of teenage dancing things in Kampala, but I didn't get to that stage. But when I was in England, we tried to do the same thing. You were in a boarding school, and then you ran to get away from boarding school in Cheltenham, where I went to school, and go all the way to London so that you can party. Yes, on the train. Your parents don't know. So we did that. You go on Saturday night, and then you come back Sunday morning. Nobody knows at school that you actually left.
Wow.
So now, Sum of 69 talks about all those writers and being stubborn, being,
And of course, takes you back
yes.
in time with a bit
and at the
of
same time,
nostalgia.
you're in love with all these boys that you have no clue
where life is going to take them, or where they will take you along in their life.
Yes.
Sum of 69 by Brian Adams is chosen by Princess Mazzi, a song that brings fond memories and gives an air of nostalgia of a time where lived as a young person growing up and rebelling and find their path in life. We'll be back. It's Desert Island Discs.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
Played it till my fingers bled. Was the summer of 69.
Welcome back. It's Desert Island Discs. I have the pleasure to host a princess. And if you missed the earlier part of the program, she clearly takes us through what is her lineage, the relation with the current monarch, His Royal Highness Mutebi, who, and I keep telling folks that are pleased to know about this program, was in fact the first guest on this program over 25 years ago when the program debuted on Ugandan FM. So you come in a long line of very distinguished and eminent persons.
I'm honored.
So they take you to boarding school, they get you out of boarding school because, again, you were not in your best of health.
Yes.
But commuting from Kanyanya to Mengo must have also been quite a bit of a task.
At that time, yes.
So just take us through your best that you can remember from those times.
So what they did, what my father did was, and on advice of other people, they put me in the guidance of a lady who was a teacher and a guardian who looked after me. But I wasn't in Kanyanya, I was actually in Mengo. So I stayed in the Mengo area. This lady looked after me, and then I went to school. Mengo, when I was at Mengo, it was just a primary school. So it wasn't like very, very long. Yeah.
And from there, where did life take you?
It took me, where did I do? I think at that time they did primary 7, right? So I went to a school in Bulova. Yeah, Bulova. There was a school that was doing primary 7, and I did it there. It was only 1 year or 2 years, I can't remember. I think 1 year. 1 year or 2 years? Yeah, 1 year. So then from there, from that school, I was taken to, this is surprising. I was thinking I was going to go back to Gaza. They were going to force me to go back to Gaza. But I think the rebellious thing was starting. And a lot of the Americans had come here to Uganda and built a school as a gift from the University of Massachusetts. That school was built in Tororo.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I told my father, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Tororo. That's why I'm going. I want to go. And he said, no, you can't go there. It is so far, blah, blah, blah. I said, that's where all my friends are going. So all of us went to Tororo. A lot of my friends went to Tororo Girls.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was interesting. You know, I can remember a few, like Esther Chigundu. Her father was this private secretary to the Kabaka of Buganda. You know, those sort of families. Margaret Chigozi didn't go there. She was in our group too, but she didn't go there. She went to Gayaza. But there are a number of other kids, Subugas, and you probably wouldn't know them because you were much younger. Yeah, but so that's what happened. That's how I ended up in Tororo. We went to Tororo Girls. Having come from a British system, Tororo Girls was given as a gift to Uganda, and it was supposed to be managed as totally American.
Well,
they had a language lab. All the kids, we all had to go into language lab and learn how to speak American. Yes, really.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was very interesting. They used to bring in food from United States.
Food?
When I went to Tororo, when I was at Tororo Girls, yes.
So tin sardines?
They did all that stuff, and they brought on, and there was these sweet potatoes that you now started to grow in Uganda, but it wasn't here before.
The ones which are in a strange color also.
Yeah, that's right. So then some kids complained because Tororo was supposed to bring in all the kids from Uganda. So the kids from the north complained that they were not being fed because there was no, what do you call it? We call it grits in that sense. It is posho. We call it posho. So they started to cook that too, and matoke and so on. So things started to change. The dormitories were very American. The teachers were all American.
Wow.
And then later on, I think after a year of being there were some teachers that they had sent to New York University or somewhere, and then they brought them back to Tororo. But as things changed, by the time I left, I suppose they had started bringing in Ugandan teachers. Yes.
But before then, it
was purely American. It was so American that on weekends, the driver would take us downtown to do shopping.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. A driver would take us downtown to do shopping.
So how many years did you spend in Tororo enjoying your life?
It was supposed to be 4 years because that was high school.
Yes.
So from there, when we were in the 4th year, things went sour in the country. So one of the years, was it 4th year or 3rd year? Because I remember I was taken out, and I had also there. I had to be. We had to come out and go, and me, my father took me immediately to England.
Also, that was the time, the turbulence of which year, 1966 or 1970?
That's 1960. That is how 1969 comes in. I think it
Okay.
was 1969
After the
or
after the
70, something
okay, so
like
after
70.
the crisis, what we know as the Buganda crisis, when the king is deposed, it's an
No,
attack
that
on the
was
palace.
before.
That
Right.
was before.
Yeah, but that must have, because when the king was deposed, I was young, I thought.
Ah, okay.
But this time the king was in England, and I think when I was at Tororo, the king died.
Oh, yes.
Then the king died, and then there was that commotion of, something happened, because we were all crying and blah blah blah. And then something else happened. I don't know what happened. I think there was some unrest somewhere, because when I went to England in 70, end of 70, I think Amin came to power. When did Amin come to power?
1972, around about.
72?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm confusing the years, because I went to England when about 2 months or 3 months before Amin came to power.
Wow.
And I remember I came from Tororo, went home, and then they were asking me, get the visas, and I don't know what they were doing, and I found myself at the airport.
That must also have been very exciting for you.
It was actually exciting for me. I'm going to England, but then I don't know where I'm going. And I'm not going with anyone. They put me on a plane.
Alone.
Yes.
None of your siblings came with you?
No, none of them. My father didn't even come. All I know is that they told me that when I get there, I will be met by the British Council. At that time, I think, and I was told later that at that time, the British were supposed to meet all Ugandan students or something. I don't know whether they were meeting all of them, but I was met by them. They took me to a YWCA, Central London.
Wow.
I remember this very well, yeah, on Russell Street. So, yeah.
The experience of on the plane, but before that, the farewell, the emotions that come.
Yeah, there was a party. I remember there was a party at home. And yeah, and it was like sort of, at that age, you are like, oh my God, oh well, whatever. You don't really take things serious, and yeah.
And then you're on this plane.
And then I'm on this plane, and I'm going to England, and I got there, and then this English person met me. They took me to the hostel, and that was the last time I saw that person. So there I was in this hostel. But what was good was my father thought about this, I think, heavily, and he said, I have to go. So he came out about 2 weeks after. 2 weeks after I arrived in England, he came out to England.
Oh, that was great.
Yes.
To check on his daughter.
Yes, to check on me. Not only that, they had enrolled me in a school in Cheltenham. So and there was this whole list of things that had to be done, like going shopping like you would for your child here. So he had to come and take me shopping to buy all this stuff. I still have the little blanket they gave me that I had to buy to take to school, because you had to cover your legs in winter. This was a very aristocratic school that I went to.
That also brought together some royals from the...
Yes, from Britain. Yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
So your father deliberately chose this school, or the British Council chose it for you?
No, I have some uncles here, I won't mention their names, who grew up in England, or who went to school in England, who were just sort of fussing. They always fussed about things. And they said I had to go to this school. So they told my father, yeah, she has to go to that school.
It's a beautiful school and fits her character.
Well, yeah.
So when you got in there, of course, that's a time when there are not so many people with our skin color.
Right.
And it's in the 70s, and
Yes.
racism as we know it couldn't have been even more pronounced as it is now, or was it not? What was your experience?
The experience was that actually I was very grateful to the upbringing I was given, that because I was very independent, and the English girls that went to Cheltenham ladies, they were all from nobility. And they had been taught things like They, like you were taught, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't. Everybody who comes here must have had some sort of. But there were some kids in there who were different. It doesn't mean that when you're nobility, you have good manners. There were some kids who had very bad manners, and they would say, well, you come from a bush, do you live on a tree, and blah, 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 things like that. But you see, the thing is, because you are young, you start crying, and then the matron comes asking, why are you crying? Oh, so-and-so said that I live on a tree. We don't live on trees in Uganda. We have houses. And who did that to you there? And then they suspend the kid out of school. Yes, it happened to me. That's why I'm telling you. So this kid was, and I didn't pray. I was like, then I was crying that they suspended the kid.
Oh, so when the kid returned, did you say sorry?
Well, after she came back, because they would tell her she had to go to, it was a compulsory thing, she had to go home. And after she came back, she said sorry, and then she became a friend of mine, that sort of thing. But yeah, the thing was, the schools there, those sort of schools, were very, very strict with the students.
What were you studying to become? Did you have an idea then?
At that school? At that school, it was a finishing school.
Yeah, but
I was just doing A levels.
Yeah, did you have in your mind a vocation of choice?
No, because remember, when at my age, at that time, they dictated to you what you are going to be. They did that in Uganda too, I was told by someone. That they would say, oh yeah, you are going to be an economist, or you are going to be... So
they make the choice for you.
Yeah, but in my case, in England, they didn't force me to be, because in England, ladies were supposed to be either secretaries or administrative things. But we did that too. I did that actually. I did administration. I did all sorts of funny stuff like, to be a secretary, so that I said, if I become a secretary, at least I will know how to do shorthand.
Exactly.
so I did it. But my path went a very different way. So when I was at Cheltenham, after doing all this other stuff you do, the normal subjects, I was also doing French.
Oh.
But the French that was being taught to me was being taught by a Russian woman. Can you believe this?
What?
A Russian teaching me French.
French in England.
In England. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But then I had this idea, as this woman was teaching me French, was Russian, and she was telling me about her sorry stories about having left Russia, coming to England. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go to France and do French. And then they asked me, what are you going to do then? Now at university or at college, as we call it? I said, I want to do English in literature. And that's what I did. So my curriculum was that I needed to do English in England as a major, and then I had to do French. So so then I went to France and did French.
How often did your parents ever visit you when you were in England as a young student? Other than that was when
my mother came later after I was grown, but my father used to come every year.
Wow.
Yeah. But there was a time, things were very difficult here. But he was very intuitive. He used to ask friends, like he had a lot of it. He was a businessman. My father was a very successful businessman. And he had a lot of partners as Indian partners. And they had been chucked out of the country. So they would help him facilitate whatever he had to facilitate, like a ticket maybe, and so on and so forth. He would pay them here, and they would get him a ticket, things like that.
He knew his way around, so to speak.
Yes, and actually it worked for him, because when I was in Cheltenham, which is not a cheap school, there was a time when Ugandans were not allowed to send money out.
Yes.
And so he would get those friends to do this, to pay the school fees, and then he would pay them here, because they still had properties here.
The love of a father towards his daughter.
Right.
Let's play the next song, Princess Mazzi.
My next song, there's a song when I was older. Now I'm in England, and I'm in France, and I'm sort of like an independent young lady. There's a song called Lady in Red.
Christy Baja.
That's right. Why that song? Because every time a boyfriend would ask me, can you meet me at anywhere, Mabolage in London, or the circus, or meet me in Piccadilly, or meet me in Paris in Kasyate.
Wow.
They were always late. They were always, there's no boyfriend I had that was always on time. And I was always on time. So, one day this guy took me out and he said, "Wow, why are you so upset?" And I said, "Because you are late. Why are you late?" And we're in Paris. So he said he was going to take me to opera.
Wow.
And the song that came on, the guy that was on stage, guess who?
And you fell in love.
Oh my God, I fell in love with that song. I fell in love with everything.
And I'm sure the boyfriend just whispered the lyrics of the words, the song to you.
That song is great. And yeah, I love that song.
The part where I said, "Never seen you look so gorgeous tonight."
Yes, and you look so gorgeous tonight. And when you translate all that in French, oh my God.
Oh, it was in French.
No, you were singing in French.
Oh.
But then later on, you know how he is. He started to sing also in English.
In English.
Yeah.
Explains a bit of red in your outfit today. And
oh my God, the red. Oh my, when you're in Uganda today, they think that when you wear red, but this is heavy. I'm bringing you the culture of all the royal families of Uganda, not of Buganda, of Uganda. This one you see here, the Baganda used to wear it. I think they used to wear it like
without the sleeves.
Exactly, for something cultural. And then the Batoro use it at the bottom.
So do the Banyankore.
So do the Banyankore at the bottom. I don't know
with
who else.
With a short dress on top.
Exactly, and Bunyoro also.
Exactly.
So this dress, this thing, even though it's not made in Uganda, it brings to me. It was, and I have like a lot of them in pieces. Wow. It brings back Uganda to me. It brings all those royals of Uganda that I'm actually related to by blood, because I am.
Without a doubt, one big happy family.
Exactly.
But importantly, let's go back to the opera in Paris and listen to Lady in Red. Can you imagine the luck that someone takes you to the opera?
Actually,
what a nice way to say sorry.
Yes, it was fantastic. I was so, and those sort of things set your life up. Then you don't want anything lower.
I mean, if you've been to an opera and Chris Nabaj is performing, the next guy takes you where? To buy you ice cream at the Mabolage?
I know, that is...
Cumberland Hotel for tea? No. We'll be right back. It's Desert Island Discs. It's Princess Mazzi sharing with us her life story. And as you can see, she's lived quite a good one.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
Lady in Red is dancing with me.
It's Desert Island Discs. Bigger and better now at your most convenient on the top of your palm with any gadget that you can find that has an internet connection. We're on YouTube and simultaneously broadcast on 91.3 Capital FM. Princess Mazzi, an eventful life of, exquisite living, but yet a student. How are you? I mean, yes, your parents came visiting and all that, but sometimes I think, like many parents did to us as we were growing up, they keep you up on a shoestring budget, and yet the attractions for a young person and the life you lead is normally more than what you can afford. How do you keep up? Or your cousins, your friends, like His Royal Highness was also a student, I'm sure around about that same time, came in handy.
Yes, that was the value of having an extended family as Ugandans. There's one thing most people don't realize. When we're in Britain, especially, the Toro Kingdom, the Banyoro Kingdom, Buganda Kingdom, and Ankole were like one family.
Wow.
And we didn't speak the same language. Nobody spoke any of those languages. We all spoke English. So we are one family. If one had a problem, the other one helped. If there was a party, we all went to the same party.
Talking about parties.
But you see, the thing is, all those relatives or whatever, they all went to boarding schools. We had no expenses. Absolutely no expenses. And when at the end, except when we were running out of school to go and do
To go and
this,
party outside.
Yeah. But okay, at the end of this term, the money had already been paid for you to have a ticket on the train to take you wherever you are going. When we were in London as a town, there were lots of families, not necessarily royals, but there were families of nobility people from Uganda that their sons and their daughters and so on, they had their extra money. And so they were, we used to hang out with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is
And
that the wide pool of people from which
yes.
you picked a boyfriend or two, or you
see,
extended your net to even the natives of England?
that was the main problem with, and that is still the main problem within the royals of Uganda.
Mhm.
If you are from Uncle A royal family, you cannot marry a princess. You should not marry a princess from Buganda because you are related by blood. Or if you are from Bunyoro or Toro, or I think some Basoga too,
Mhm.
you are related by blood. So your aunties would say, but you know that one is your cousin.
And yet, in essence, really, it's
So that is
far-fetched.
incest, yes. So things like that happen. They do happen. People have married them. But when we were there, and that was also the problem we had here in Kampala, you go and you meet Mr. Murana, R.I.P. You grew up with Mr. Murana as your uncle, and you grew up with his kids were your, you thought they were your cousin, right? And so you cannot be dating Mr. Murana's children because you grew up together. Same with Chigundu, same with the Blakes. You try to, you do all those because you grew up together.
So it left you with a very,
Very
narrow,
small, narrow.
space to find a mate.
Exactly.
But how about the acceptability of dating a British guy?
That was, it is very funny because you are going to find a lot of people in this generation of ours, including the king and all this generation of my age. There are lots of people who look like Maggie Bleak. There are lots of kids. In my family, we have 3 who are married to non-Africans.
Because again,
Yeah. I mean, so the kids are, half British, half American, half whatever. My son is lucky. His father is American, yes,
mhm,
but his father is a mixture of Black Americans, white Americans, and Indian, what we call Native Americans.
wow.
There's actually more Native Americans in his father than there is Black.
So your son is more of an Obama of sorts, except
Exactly. Even though he's like Obama, but he's not like a white person. He's not
Okay.
like as light as Obama. But you can see from his features that he has a lot of stuff that he picked up from the Native Americans, the white Americans and the
Wow.
Black Americans. Yes.
so your son in him is the world, really, as we know it, because he has got every mix that can
Exactly.
be macros.
Right.
And so to him, he must be colorblind. Colorblind
He is.
in that sense.
He is very, very colorblind.
Mhm.
He is very, very, very colorblind. His grandmother, he was more Native American than anything because he was more native. He was a Native American with a lot of white blood in her and had her hair all the way down to her hair almost touched the ground.
Wow.
She was a beautiful woman.
Must have
Yes.
been interesting.
Yes.
But let's talk more about this, the whole appreciation of, the situation royals find yourselves in. On one hand, you can't date a fellow royal, even from another kingdom,
Yes.
because again, you're related. But on the other hand, there is the disdain of dating a non-royal because, again, sometimes I think out of your stature, and I would use the word that's commonly used for we who are not royals, or your mukopi. So how then do you, isn't it very difficult to date someone that is of low social standing, and yet you can't get someone of the same standing as you because, again, you're related?
Right.
It's a conundrum, isn't it?
It is. But what I find, I haven't experienced it myself, but what I found with the relatives like the aunties who married, they had to marry commoners, as you call them in English. those commoners knew what they were
Getting
yeah,
themselves
they were getting themselves into. So they had to learn the culture. In those days, I was always surprised. They never said that we are going to Mr. Musoke's house or your Uncle Musoke's house. They said, Tugenda wa Mumbeja Nakayenga. Tugenda wa Mumbeja Porogoma. They never ever mentioned the name of her husband.
And yet this is a patriarchal society.
Exactly.
Where, in fact,
Yes.
it's the man's home.
Exactly.
But because he married a royal,
Mumbeja.
it's now the Mumbeja's home.
Right.
Do they also assume their names? If you were married to a commoner called Musoke, would you assume his name or you keep your name as given to you?
Because of the culture, they would call me Amumbeja Mazzi. Owa Musoke.
Oh, Mumbeja Mazzi Owa Musoke.
Yes.
That's an interesting one. And if I am Musoke,
Yes.
I don't take offense in the fact that my identity is not standalone as the man should be, but is pegged to the woman that I married.
In the culture, you would be so
Privileged.
because your children now have a lineage in the Buganda kingdom. Because your kingdom, yes, they will take your
Surname?
your surname and I suppose your clan.
Your clan, yes.
But at the same time, do you know what? They take your clan, but they are Sava, they are Nava, they are Sava, which is a title in the Buganda kingdom. Sava Simon Musoke. The minute they mention Sava, you remove yourself from being a commoner.
Oh, so Nava
Sava.
Not long ago, I had a lady called Nava Gray
Yes.
on the program.
Right.
She's a beautiful musician,
Yes.
an incredible sense of music.
Right.
And she just told me they realized they are not only royal here, but I think they also had royal lineage in the Irish royal family. So she's that mix.
Yes.
Now I understand what the name does now mean.
Yes.
The culture is really deep, isn't it?
It is. So, yeah, so when you are married to a princess, it is a privilege. Yes.
There's also the interesting element where you are referred to not as Nyabo, but as Sevo.
Exactly.
I find that
Why do they refer to princesses as Sevos? Because the princesses in, I suppose in the cultures of the Bantu people, only the princesses could be sent to war.
Oh.
Yes. And you know that there are some princesses actually who fought war.
And
even in
won.
Buganda, they did.
Yes.
Yes. They went to war, but a commoner was not, as a woman, could not be sent to war.
So you were beyond the limitations of the traditional set roles for a woman.
Exactly.
Hence, Sevo.
Yes. So how would you be a commander of an army if
And
you
they're
are,
saying,
if
"Yes,
you are a
madam."
woman? Yeah, exactly.
They should be saying, "Yes, sir."
Yes. Yes, sir.
There was also a very strong link, and I think later on we'll read this in the books, between, of course, the British crown
Yes.
and the beautiful kingdom of Buganda.
Right.
And of course, you are named after Princess Margaret and Princess Anne. Did you ever get to meet them?
Yeah, it's a good thing you asked. My love story is a fantastic and very intriguing story. When I was a child in England, when we went to Cheltenham, there's a thing called, you can Google these things, by the way. There's a horse racing
Event?
horse racing place called, it is called, actually they have the horse racing event called the Cheltenham races. They're done in Cheltenham. And the Queen has to come, she always went to these races to see how the horses, and then she chooses I think she would choose some horses to take to the Derby.
Wow.
Right? So because we're in Cheltenham and we're Cheltenham ladies, we are given the chance whenever she came there to just be in the crowd, so that there would be people. And of course we are rebellious. We are like, oh my God, why are we doing this? And we never knew until we grew up that, we are so privileged to
be
be
a part
there,
of it.
to be there.
It
So
wasn't
because
an
the Queen would
everyday-
be going around, because we are forced to wear gloves. You cannot shake the Queen's hand with.
Bare hand.
No. So anyway, so that was one occasion. And then when I grew up and as I told you, I went to France, and then after school, I went back to England to finish up and I was now living in London. I had the privilege or the honor of being invited to Buckingham Palace twice. So for tea.
Wow, beautiful.
So
The closest we get is taking those pictures right after those majestic big gets.
yes. So as you know yourself, the Queen always has what they call garden parties every June, I think it is. So I was
Enjoy the summer.
yeah, that sort of thing. So I was invited there twice. One time I went with we went together with the King of Buganda,
Wow.
because now I can't call him Ronnie.
When the two of you meet,
I can't call him Ronnie.
but you have that's an endearment name you call when you meet him.
Yes.
Wow, interesting.
So he has also been there. So those are two occasions. And then the third one, it is funny, yes, I've had a very interesting life. I was in France as a student, and in France there weren't that many students, people from Uganda at that time. And the Queen, that was the first time the Queen came to France. After a very long time. I don't know how long, but official visit. So there was this reception they had to have at the Elysee.
Wow.
And they were looking for people to go as Ugandan, the Ugandan thing going. So
You happen to be there?
so I happened to be in France. And they said, "Do you want to go?" So I went with some of the embassy people. The embassy people were going, but there were not many of them. So I was one of them going, but not as an embassy official, but just as a Ugandan, to give it
You
some
put
color.
on your busuti and
Yeah,
Mhm.
But at Buckingham Palace, the Bosuti thing actually was very funny, because before we greeted the king, the queen, the Duke would go around, and the Duke came around to us. That was the first time I went, and he said, you don't have to tell me where you're from. I can tell from your dress.
Wow.
And I was like, I was waiting, because there are things you do and things you don't do when you are in front of such people. You sort of can't say, "Oh, well, where am I from?" thing. So I just sort of kept quiet. And he said, "Don't tell me, don't tell me." Of course, he couldn't remember which country.
Or so you thought.
So I thought. And then, you can't stand there forever with you. He had to move on. So of course, it just slid. But I'm pretty sure I don't know, but I don't think he knew where it was.
So you've shaken
But he
the
had seen
hands of
with
the Queen
with the Duke and the Queen.
and the Queen. Wow.
You have to and I have my gloves upstairs. I never threw them out.
And never washed
Two
your
pair.
gloves.
Well,
You're such a hoard, aren't you? So these precious memories and times that you carry with you,
yes.
how often were you relaying them back home? Because I'm sure you had friends that you left back home that you always sent to telegrams, letters,
That's why I met the Queen.
phone calls maybe.
No, it is so
Not
funny.
just about meeting the Queen, but your general experience, because you always communicating back home to friends, or that was a closed chapter and so you kept your friends around in England?
No, because now that you've asked me, I can't remember sending any messages back home, except my father. I said, "Oh my God, do you know who I met today?"
Wow.
That sort of thing. But in England, within that closed circle, we talked about things, We talked about, and silly stuff. Did you see Princess Anne's heart and, things like that? Yeah, things like that, yes. And, we didn't think it was a big deal. I suppose that's why we never reported back.
It's very interesting.
We didn't think it was a big deal at all. But as we grow, then you look back and you say, "Oh my God, that was a big deal."
In France, you went to deepen your appreciation of the language.
Mm-hmm.
You speak it fluently now, French.
Where did I learn French? In France it was a bit difficult because I went to, even though I was learning French with this Russian woman I told you
Mhm.
about, she didn't teach me a lot of French and she was being paid a lot of money. But I went to France like I never knew any French. So I had to go to
The
two
beginners,
schools.
more or less.
I had to go to a school called Interlang. Interlang was a place where you go to learn sort of commercial French. And then I went to the University of Sorbonne to do the normal language as a language, as you learn English as a language, and also to learn the tradition of that language. I couldn't do it in Interlang.
Yes.
So I was doing it at two schools.
And when it's all said and done, would you, for example, write a novel in French now?
No.
It's again too complicated.
It is too complicated. And in fact, I will be very straight. I did not even get my degree in that course.
Why?
In France, because it was going to take forever.
So at what point
Ask
do you say,
Jones how hard it is to pass a French language exam.
You telling me I studied up senior 4, and frankly speaking,
I didn't, yeah.
I can't even conjugate.
So, but I got, they used to give you certificates every term that, yeah, you finish your term.
This grade or
yeah,
this
those things.
stage.
Yeah, that stuff.
So at some point you said, you know what, enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
I'm out of
Because it was getting more and more difficult. And then the French are very, very passionate with their culture, and their culture is their language. So you need to learn the culture and the language. Yes, concurrently.
There's no one without the other.
Yes.
The British can do with the bastardization of their language. That's why we have all this.
Exactly.
I don't even think there's much slang going on in the French one.
Exactly. So because the French language is like, you can say you can say something like, how can I say, don't go there. But then if you say, don't go there, or don't go there, there's completely 3 meanings.
So the intonation.
And the intonation comes with culture. How you are saying it, the body language, is what that person understands.
Not so much.
Not just saying it. Oh, don't go there. And then you are, no, and it is a fantastic culture. The food, you have to learn the food. How do we, and the French are the French language is very romantic. And you have to learn to be romantic in your own way.
It's a learned behavior.
It is born, but it's also learned.
Intrinsic.
Exactly. And so everything is romantic. Everything is beautiful. Everything is, So
if you have a French boyfriend, he speaks to you in superlatives.
He can call you things like you look like a flower that comes out at 3:00 in the morning. Now translate that in French. C'est formidable.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. You must know the language. But tell me something as we go to the point where you play your next song. You seemed to have such a relationship with your father that he allowed you the latitude to make your own decisions about key things in your life.
Right.
Or did he not? He always had an overbearing presence in your life.
Yes, he did. He did. And how did I know that? Because he trusted me 100%, my father did.
Mm-hmm.
A simple example I will give you. I was young. I was in England. And they were living in you were very young, but they were living in very difficult times during Amin's time. And yet he had to run a family in England like me. And at that time he decided to send my sister who followed me and my brother who followed her, so that they would come out. And so they all had to go to schools, and I had to be the older one. They were all going to boarding schools. But anyhow, he decided that he needed to buy a home. Yes, so
in England.
In England. So being who he is, he said, where do we buy a home? And so he talked to his friends and they said, oh, well, you can buy them in this. Things go on when people live abroad. Some people don't like to be with white people or with the conservatives or the whatever. But then his friend said, you know what, if you want these kids to come out as something, you have to be in a conservative area where everything is English. So he chose to buy a home in Kent.
Wow.
So we lived in Bromley, Kent. And And then going back to why you asked me about my relationship with my father, he trusted me with this money that was going to buy that house. So he took me to the Barclays Bank in London. He opened the account in my name.
Wow.
I never thought about, I mean, I thought, well, it didn't matter to me at that time because I was like, and but yeah, when you talk about it now, it is like, God, that was some trust.
You could have partied that money.
Exactly.
Blown it up in a
Blown
couple
that
of
money
weeks.
in Kensington and Chelsea.
Wow.
I could have.
Yes, you're a Chelsea fan now.
I am.
Why?
Because I went to England and I was living in Chelsea, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
And the Chelsea team was there. There was
In the
Chelsea,
neighborhood.
Tottenham, all those
Those
London
teams, even Arsenal.
Arsenal, and I hated Arsenal because it was from North London. I don't know, all sorts of things were going on. But Chelsea was my team, and I never left it. If they fail, and they win, and I'm at Chelsea.
Wow, you must have a strong heart.
Yes,
But
yes.
at least not as strong as that of Arsenal supporters. Princess, let's play our next song.
The next song will not take now. The next song I would think of will take us from Europe to United States. Are you finished with Europe?
Well,
You can
it
come
is your
back.
life story. We shall come back, but let's play
Okay.
our next song. From wherever it is, we'll appreciate.
The next song is "Purple Rain" by Prince.
Wow.
Have you seen the movie Purple
No,
Rain?
I haven't.
You need to. It is on. It must be on.
I'll tell you something, Princess Mazzi.
Yes.
I have such an attention deficit
Deficit. Yes.
that sitting down to watch a movie for 2.5 hours, it must be something of epic proportions like Shawshank Redemption and other movies I have watched whose titles I don't remember.
Yes.
But ask me, I was taken for a movie date to watch Lord of the Rings. I only remember the opening. The next thing, I was being elbowed by my date, and the end credits were going up. I slept off. But Purple Rain, tell us about it. What does it bring to your life?
Well, now we are going to skip all my arrival in the United States and get to Purple Rain. So Purple Rain, the song, got a lot to do with my son's father, who is American, Black American. And my meeting him was just by coincidence. As we speak, he's actually deceased, he's RIP.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so a long time ago. But when we met, I was like, no, I don't like, I cannot do this thing. I don't like you Negroes. I told him to his face, I don't like you Negroes. He said, we are not Negroes, we are black.
You have quite some courage.
I know.
It comes from being a princess, I guess.
Right. Well,
Yes,
and I said, well, where are you going? Because I tried to date people, and it wasn't so easy, because in England I was not discriminative. I had English boyfriends and French boyfriends, and anybody. But in United States it was a bit different.
You're just the one. I mean, if you were to go to the United States, you don't go for the lowest of the rank. That's what
Yes, but also you can't sort of say, oh yeah, I'm going to go with this white boy, because they look at you as, that time they looked at you as black, and they were like, even if they wanted to date you, they were scared maybe to ask you. So anyway, this guy came up, and I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because I had gone out with someone before who didn't want to go anywhere where there were white people. And I wasn't used to that. I wasn't comfortable with that at all.
He prefers to have you.
I have to be in a mix of people. I'm one of those people who, I'm colorblind. I am
You're blind to every difference.
to everything that is different. Yeah, I can fight with you as a Nyankole, for example, and we fight a long fight, and we say, oh, that girl doesn't like us. But you know what? It is not deep in there. I am just fighting for you for the moment.
I love that.
I fight with you for that in that moment, but I will never say that I really hate you, because your blood probably runs into mine.
True.
So I
That's what they
can't.
say.
I can't. But anyway, going back to Papa Rain. So he said, okay, if you think that I'm so, low class and so on, what about going out? And in United States, we do things. We can speak like blacks. We can also speak like British. We can also speak like American whites.
Wow.
So he said, well, what about going out and going out to a concert? I said, what? Yeah, we can go and see a concert. And I said, what concert? Oh, the concerts in town I see in DC, they are over. No, girl. I think Prince is going to be in Maryland.
Wow.
I said, what? I said, okay, we are going.
Off.
I went and saw Prince on stage
In Maryland.
in Maryland. I will never forget that and I started liking his music and so on. Prince was a character.
Oh, yeah.
Prince was a character.
Something about you.
Yes.
You love the good life. A good concert, beautiful movie, great music, going out and having a good time. The epitome of being a princess. Let's take this song, Purple Rain. Did he perform it that day you went for the concert? Now I'm speaking like you.
went for that concert. Yes.
And for a story such as yours, we just cannot change our listeners, and we cannot rush you.
Right.
So we may have to come back
Oh.
to this very story next week. For now, it's been a pleasure having you listening to us. You are a listener and viewer. We don't take your presence for granted. For the princess, she's graciously accepted to be with us next week, same time, same place.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM. Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.